More than $3.5 million in the hole. Mayor Tiffany Henyard is accused of misusing money, and today,
with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle it.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas?
Mm,
What is that?
no, sir.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
You're not going to answer how taxpayer dollars are being spent? That seems odd.
I just answered it. What do you mean? I just answered your questions.
You said you wouldn't.
Federal law enforcement investigators have intensified their examination of Dalton Mayor and Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, uncovering substantial proof connecting her to the suspected laundering and misallocation of governmental funds. This advancement contributes further to the escalating controversy surrounding her administration during April 2024. A special agent from the Federal Bureau of Investigation delivered subpoenas at the Thornton Township Hall, officially demanding extensive corporate documentation and financial records pertaining to Henyard's numerous business endeavors, including an eating establishment, a real estate management firm, her political fundraising organization, and a nonprofit foundation bearing her designation. The legal requests additionally sought comprehensive documentation from the township, encompassing fiscal plans, salary disbursement information, official credit card transactions, reimbursement claims for expenditures, security team details, and operational logs of government-assigned automobiles, indicating an extensive federal inquiry. Henyard has encountered numerous allegations regarding the exploitation of taxpayer resources for individual benefit, such as utilizing government funds to cover expenses for her private police security entourage and subsidizing luxurious travel arrangements. One notable instance is the event titled Taste of Thornton Township, which amounted to $85,000 and featured live musical acts, including rhythm and blues vocalist Kiki Wyatt, alongside rap artist Jay Holiday. This occasion faced widespread backlash due to its excessive cost and low audience turnout. Further accusations propose that Henyard misdirected public finances toward personal indulgences, such as opulent vacations and the unwarranted postponement of alcoholic beverage licensing for regional enterprises, which ultimately resulted in judicial intervention and a ruling of contempt against her. The scope of the inquiry has widened to encompass Henyard's closest collaborators, with federal subpoenas requesting records concerning government personnel, including her principal subordinate Keith Freeman and her romantic partner, who oversees the township's program for preventing youth violence. The expansive nature of the legal requests implies severe allegations of wrongdoing. As the federal investigation advances, the accumulated evidence will hold substantial significance in determining Henyard's judicial outcome, possibly culminating in formal accusations that might lead to incarceration, depending on the solidity and comprehensiveness of the gathered proof.
Stop playing these silly games, board of trustees, and putting people's lives in jail.
Do what you want. But anything after this is insubordination.
I'm gonna remember this, because at the end of the day, I told you, you guys don't run it.
In a dramatic and unexpected turn of events, federal criminal accusations have been formally lodged against Lee Lacey, the deputy chief of police and longtime confidant of embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, further intensifying the crisis engulfing her administration. Since Henyard's electoral victory in 2021, Lacey has remained one of her most unwavering allies, demonstrating resolute confidence during a period of political turbulence. However, Lacey now confronts a federal indictment on allegations of banking fraud, accused of deliberately concealing financial assets and income to evade payment of a prior lawsuit, and intentionally misleading financial creditors. Lacey's defense attorneys vehemently refute the accusations, asserting that the charges constitute a calculated effort to coerce him into betraying Henyard, whose tenure as mayor has been plagued by persistent allegations of administrative malpractice, unethical conduct, and systemic corruption. This latest indictment threatens to exacerbate the already escalating turmoil surrounding Henyard's leadership, which has been characterized by a series of intensifying scandals and governance controversies. Lacey's legal predicament amplifies the mounting scrutiny directed toward Henyard, who continues to encounter widespread demands for accountability and transparency, particularly concerning her management of public finances. Merely 1 week prior, the city's Board of Trustees placed Lacey on administrative suspension, voicing increasing dissatisfaction with Henyard's leadership style and decision-making, a move that underscores a growing divide within the local political hierarchy. Despite the official directive, Lacey allegedly persisted in reporting to his workplace, openly defying the trustees' explicit instructions. His unyielding defiance has raised considerable concern and fueled speculation regarding his ultimate objectives. Some analysts now contend that Lacey, once an unshakable supporter of Henyard, may soon emerge as a pivotal figure in revealing further corruption within her administration. Widespread conjecture suggests that Lacey possesses crucial documentary proof that could substantially undermine Henyard's political standing, particularly in relation to accusations surrounding the misallocation and unauthorized usage of governmental funds. Should Lacey decide to fully cooperate with federal prosecutors and provide sworn testimony, it could constitute a catastrophic setback for Henyard's already deteriorating public image, potentially corroborating the numerous corruption allegations leveled against her. The recent indictment of Lacey, coupled with the increasing likelihood of his collaboration with investigative authorities, has reignited national attention on Henyard's leadership. Intensifying inquiries now center around the extent of Henyard's direct involvement in any financial misconduct, as well as whether she unlawfully redirected taxpayer funds for self-enrichment. The downfall of one of her closest and most trusted associates could have extensive ramifications for her political trajectory, further diminishing both public confidence and support among her governmental peers. For Henyard, this unfolding moment represents a critical and high-stakes juncture. In her career, as one of her primary defenders now faces severe legal peril. With pressure on her administration rapidly intensifying, public outcries for justice and full accountability continue to grow louder, while many political observers remain fixated on Lacey's potential role in an expanding investigation into widespread corruption and abuses of power within Henyard's governing body. This explosive new development has the potential to fundamentally alter the regional political landscape, as Lacey's anticipated cooperation may ultimately mark the decisive beginning of the end for Henyard's increasingly embattled administration.
Dalton has been charged with bankruptcy fraud. Louis Lacey is accused of filing misleading statements in his 2019 bankruptcy case. Lacey is a close ally of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. He's actually the second top aide to Henyard to face federal bankruptcy fraud charges.
Amidst intensifying judicial and governmental turbulence, Lee Lacey, the deputy chief of police and an unwaveringly loyal supporter of Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, remains fiercely committed to her despite escalating external pressures. His legal representatives have publicly defended him, asserting that the federal inquiry targeting Lacey is a deliberate maneuver intended to manipulate him as an instrument in a more extensive strategy aimed at dismantling Mayor Henyard's administration. According to his defense counsel, investigative authorities have been exerting pressure upon influential figures within the municipality, seeking an individual willing to abandon their allegiance and provide incriminating information against the mayor. However, Lacey, resembling a fiercely devoted sentinel, continues to stand resolutely beside Henyard, refusing to yield despite the intensity of the ongoing investigation. Nevertheless, regardless of Lacey's unshaken loyalty, recent unfolding events suggest that federal authorities may already possess crucial documentary proof capable of implicating Mayor Henyard in egregious official misconduct. This significant development heightens the stakes in this ongoing governmental and political crisis, captivating widespread public scrutiny and provoking renewed concerns regarding the credibility and ethical standards of the entire governing body. For individuals unfamiliar with the origins of this unfolding saga, the chain of events was initially set into motion following the unexpected demise of former Mayor Frank Zuro, an incident that left the Board of Trustees burdened with the arduous responsibility of appointing a replacement to serve the remainder of his electoral term. In adherence to statutory election provisions, the board was allotted precisely 60 calendar days within which to finalize its selection. As the deadline loomed ever closer, it was widely anticipated that an experienced board member, such as Joyce Washington, who had previously held the interim supervisor position, or Jerry Jones, would rise to assume the role. Additional perspective. Candidates including Cass Sander-Sten, the township's official property assessor, were also placed under consideration. However, true to the unpredictable nature of political maneuvering, circumstances deviated significantly from initial expectations. The board members found themselves ensnared in a deadlock, unable to achieve consensus on any single candidate. Then, in a surprising last-minute development, Trustee Christopher G. Gonzalez unexpectedly nominated Tiffany Henyard mere moments before the official deadline expired. Gonzalez's abrupt nomination stunned many observers, prompting immediate speculation regarding his underlying motivations. Many were left astounded by Henyard's sudden emergence, questioning why her candidacy had not previously surfaced in deliberations. It was subsequently revealed that Henyard had indeed submitted an application for the mayoral position well in advance. However, her name had not been publicly advanced until that pivotal juncture. Upon Henyard's formal inauguration as mayor, her introductory council meeting proceeded without complication, during which she pledged a commitment to serving the community with integrity and diligence. Gonzalez, the individual responsible for her nomination, later admitted that he sought to avert a public electoral process, reasoning that the impending deadline would ultimately unify the board around a single decision. Initially, it appeared that matters had settled amicably, yet beneath the surface, tensions were steadily mounting. Speculation began circulating regarding Henyard's deepening hostility toward individuals who had remained staunchly loyal to the late mayor Frank Zuro. This mounting speculation soon evolved into direct confrontation. One of Henyard's earliest executive actions as mayor involved the termination of municipal employee Jessica Jones. This motion was formally initiated by Jerry Jones and was publicly endorsed by Joyce Washington. In a striking turn of events, the dismissal motion received unanimous board approval, including an affirmative vote from Gonzalez, the very individual who had orchestrated Henyard's mayoral appointment. This decisive action marked the inception of a series of political power struggles that would soon engulf the entirety of the township in controversy. Subsequently, Henyard directed her focus toward Stephanie Weidman, a longtime municipal staff member who had maintained employment within the township administration since the year 2002. Weidman had previously been elevated under Mayor Zuro's administration to serve as an executive assistant, harboring aspirations of ascending to the position of chief of staff. She had been integrally involved in the mayoral transition process, collaborating alongside Dr. Jerry Williams to supervise township operational affairs. However, upon Henyard's rise to authority, Weidman's status within the administration became increasingly tenuous. During a formal meeting with Henyard, Weidman was explicitly informed that she was no longer regarded as a component of the newly established mayoral administration, and her professional responsibilities were immediately rescinded. This marked the commencement of Weidman's systematic exclusion from Henyard's governmental team, leaving her marginalized despite her years of dedicated service. As Henyard's leadership became progressively more polarizing, reports emerged alleging that she had engaged in a pattern of professional harassment, targeting individuals formerly aligned with the preceding administration. One of the most alarming incidents involved Township Clerk Estes Pender, who was reported to have barricaded herself inside her municipal office in a state of intense distress. Allegedly, during this episode, Pender scattered highly confidential documents, including sensitive medical records and classified Social Security credentials, throughout communal public spaces. This reckless breach of privacy provoked widespread public outrage, particularly due to the sensitive nature of the disclosed documentation. The township administration found itself thrust into the public spotlight, and confidence in Henyard's capacity to govern competently began to erode rapidly. Concerns regarding her ability to manage classified information responsibly, coupled with her increasingly authoritarian leadership style, further exacerbated the growing discontent with her administration. These incidents merely signified the initial phases of a broader crisis. Henyard's tenure swiftly deteriorated as her controversial personnel decisions, including the abrupt dismissal of multiple municipal employees, precipitated a wave of legal disputes, raising substantial questions regarding her governance methodologies. Among the earliest legal complaints filed against Henyard's administration was a lawsuit initiated by Santre Tracy, a former human resources executive who contended that she had been unlawfully terminated and subjected to retaliatory measures following a medically necessary surgical leave. Tracy alleged that upon her return to professional duties, she was unjustly demoted, denied re-entry to her workplace office, and ultimately discharged from her position. Within the formal litigation complaint, Tracy further cited severe emotional and psychological distress, seeking legal restitution in the form of financial reparations and retroactive compensation for what she described as egregiously unfair treatment. Shortly thereafter, yet another lawsuit emerged, this time filed by Karen Johnson, a former administrative assistant within the Public Works Department. Johnson alleged that her termination constituted a direct infringement upon her constitutional employment rights. She asserted that she had been unlawfully penalized for refusing to engage in Mayor Henyard's political recall campaign during officially designated work hours, an activity she argued explicitly violated established municipal regulatory policies. Johnson's judicial filing presented a deeply troubling portrayal of Henyard's leadership, claiming that the mayor had exploited her professional authority for personal and political advantage. The accumulating legal challenges and continuous allegations of administrative misconduct have placed Henyard's administration under heightened scrutiny, further intensifying the political discord surrounding her tenure. Henyard positioned herself to penalize individuals who failed to display unwavering allegiance to her. Johnson, alongside several other municipal employees, accused Henyard of cultivating an oppressive and hostile professional atmosphere wherein any form of dissent was met with immediate reprisal. In contrast, those who exhibited unyielding loyalty to the mayor were consistently rewarded. These mounting legal disputes were further exacerbated when yet another round of lawsuits emerged, this time initiated by Sammy Shaw Williams, a former candidate for the village trustee position. Williams alleged that Henyard had deliberately instructed municipal officials to disregard legitimate public data requests and had intentionally withheld critical information in the aftermath of her successful survival of a recall referendum. Williams, who had been officially dismissed from her governmental role in the year 2022, firmly believed that her termination was merely one component of a much broader and systematic endeavor by Henyard to suppress opposition voices and stifle political dissent within the township's governance. The steadily increasing volume of lawsuits underscored the deepening apprehension regarding Henyard's managerial approach and the potential exploitation of her official position. As these legal proceedings continued to accumulate, an even more shocking financial revelation surfaced, exposing that Henyard and her inner circle had expended an astonishing sum exceeding $122,000 on travel-related expenditures. This unsettling discovery further fueled public suspicions that taxpayer funds were being inappropriately diverted for personal and political indulgences. Detractors contended that such extravagant spending was particularly egregious, given the multitude of pressing challenges confronting the township. Critics suggested that Henyard appeared to prioritize personal luxury and self-serving interests over her fundamental responsibility to serve her constituents. However, these travel-related expenditures were merely one facet of the controversy. Additional financial audits disclosed that Henyard had personally accumulated charges amounting to an extraordinary $133,000 at the prestigious Marriott Marquis Hotel in New York City. Even more staggering was the revelation that nearly $1 million had been charged at the esteemed Four Seasons Hotel in Atlanta. These astronomical financial figures baffled township residents and officials alike, especially considering that Dalton was already grappling with severe economic hardships. The questionable expenses ignited widespread concerns, prompting many to demand explanations as to how Henyard could possibly justify such excessive outlays given the municipality's mounting fiscal deficits and increasingly strained resources. Many community members raised pressing concerns regarding the mayor's fiscal priorities, particularly when public funding should have been allocated toward essential social services, infrastructural improvements, and community welfare initiatives. Beyond these disproportionate travel-related expenditures, additional unease arose regarding the substantially inflated salaries granted to select individuals within Henyard's administration. Some government employees with direct affiliations to Henyard reportedly received cumulative earnings approaching $900,000 over the span of merely 2 years, figures that drastically surpassed standard remuneration for comparable professional roles. These financial discrepancies, coupled with suspicions of entrenched political favoritism and potential quid pro quo agreements, intensified the public's growing unease regarding Henyard's administration. Among the most distressing allegations was the assertion that Dalton police officers were being improperly utilized to serve as Henyard's personal security detail. This particular controversy struck a nerve within the township, as law enforcement resources were already critically overstretched. Critics maintained that Henyard's decision to assign taxpayer-funded police personnel to her own private protection team constituted a blatant and irresponsible misuse of public resources. As scrutiny surrounding financial mismanagement and ethical violations continued to escalate, the Federal Bureau of Investigation launched a targeted probe into Henyard's administration, delving into allegations of governmental misconduct and the improper allocation of public funds. Simultaneously, former Chicago mayor and federal prosecutor Lori Lightfoot was commissioned to spearhead an independent investigation into Henyard's leadership practices. The findings of Lightfoot's inquiry painted an even more alarming portrait of Dalton's municipal mismanagement, revealing that the township was now burdened with an overwhelming debt exceeding $3.5 million. Furthermore, the unchecked proliferation of expenditures via municipal credit cards had spiraled entirely beyond control under Henyard's governance. Despite these mounting revelations, Henyard remained steadfast in her self-styled depiction as an indomitable political force. She sought to fashion herself as a so-called supermayor, someone who believed she wielded absolute authority and held an unassailable grip over Dalton's governmental affairs. Henyard's blatant disregard for the tax-paying citizens who funded the township's operations provoked widespread outrage. Her continued prioritization of extravagant personal luxuries, even as local communities struggled to address pressing economic challenges, further deepened public disillusionment. As investigative inquiries progressed and additional incriminating details surfaced, the trajectory of Henyard's political future became increasingly uncertain. With intensifying legal and financial pressures mounting against her, speculation began to emerge regarding whether her unwaveringly loyal deputy, Lee Lacey, would maintain his allegiance or ultimately sever ties in response to the overwhelming evidence of administrative corruption and systemic misconduct. The unfolding scandal has kept the public on edge, with Henyard's continued tenure hanging precariously in the balance. The lingering question remains: will Henyard be held legally accountable for her alleged transgressions, and will those who have faithfully stood by her, including Lacey, continue to remain loyal to the very end? As the federal investigation continues to unravel new layers of controversy, all attention remains fixated on Henyard. Each successive revelation further amplifies the intensifying calls for governmental transparency and accountability. The ultimate fate of Henyard's administration grows increasingly uncertain, and with each passing development, the pressure for justice and reform only continues to build.